You're walking down a quiet street at night. A shadow shifts at the edge of your vision. Your body jerks back before your eyes even focus on what it is. By the time you consciously register a plastic bag caught in the wind, your heart is already pounding. You didn't decide to flinch. Something else decided for you. That something is older than language, older than fire, older than you. Your brain has two paths for processing danger. One is slow, careful, and accurate. The other is fast, sloppy, and built to save your life before your thinking mind even wakes up. Tonight you're going to find out why a blurry shadow can make your whole body react before you've understood a single thing about it. And the answer isn't really about shadows at all. It's about who survived long enough to have children and who didn't. Picture an early human walking through tall grass 200,000 years ago. A shape moves. It could be wind. It could be a leopard. There is no time to analyze the stripe pattern, the shoulder height, the gait. There is only time to react. The humans who paused to think it through, who waited for certainty before responding, often didn't get a second chance to learn from their mistake. The humans who flinched first and asked questions later did. Generation after generation, that wiring got passed down. You are descended from the flinchers, not the analyzers. Every fast heartbeat you've ever felt before you understood why is an inheritance from someone who didn't have time to find out if they were wrong. Neuroscientist Joseph LeDoux spent decades studying exactly how the brain processes fear, and his research mapped two distinct circuits. The first is what he called the low road. Information about a possible threat travels from your eyes or ears almost directly to a small almond-shaped structure deep in your brain called the amygdala. It skips most of the careful processing your cortex would normally do. It's fast, it's rough, it often gets things wrong, but it gets there in a fraction of a second, sometimes before the image has even fully formed in your conscious mind. The second path is the high road. This one runs through your visual cortex, where the image is actually analyzed in detail, compared against memory, checked against context. This is the path that eventually tells you, with confidence, that the shape was a plastic bag and not a predator. But here's the problem: the high road is slower. By the time it delivers its verdict, your body has already reacted, your muscles have already tensed, your heart rate has already spiked. The flinch happened first. The understanding happened after. Why would evolution build a system that reacts before it even knows what it's reacting to? Because in the environment your ancestors lived in, a slightly wrong but instant response was almost always safer than a perfectly accurate but delayed one. Flinching at a stick that turns out not to be a snake costs you almost nothing. A half second of embarrassment, maybe. But failing to flinch at a snake that turns out to be a snake could cost you everything. The amygdala isn't interested in being right. It's interested in keeping you alive long enough to be wrong safely. This is sometimes called the smoke detector principle, a term popularized by evolutionary psychologist Randolph Nessa. Think about how a smoke detector is designed. It's built to go off too often rather than not often enough. It will scream at burnt toast. It will scream at steam from a shower. That's not a flaw. That's the design working exactly as intended, because the cost of a false alarm is mild annoyance, but the cost of a missed real fire is catastrophic. Your amygdala runs on the same logic. It would rather make you flinch 1,000 times at nothing than miss the one time the danger was real. Here's where it gets stranger. Your amygdala doesn't even need to see a clear threat to react. It responds to patterns, sudden movement, looming shapes, certain silhouettes that share rough features with predators, even if you've never personally encountered one. Researchers have shown that snake-like shapes trigger faster detection and stronger physiological responses than neutral objects, even in people who grew up in places with no snakes at all. Psychologist Arne Oman ran experiments showing that humans detect images of snakes and spiders in a crowd of neutral objects faster than they detect flowers or mushrooms, even when the images are flashed for a fraction of a second. Your visual system seems to come pre-tuned to certain dangerous shapes before you've ever learned to fear them through experience. This isn't something you were taught. It's something you were built with. A baby who has never seen a snake will still show heightened attention to snake-like shapes faster than to harmless ones once fear learning kicks in, because the underlying circuitry was already primed to learn that fear quickly and easily, compared to how slowly it learns to fear, say, an electrical outlet, even though outlets are arguably far more dangerous to a modern toddler. Evolution didn't update the manual. The manual was written for a world of grass, shadows, and things with teeth. Now think about what this means for your body in the present moment, the one you're sitting in right now reading this. Every time you flinch at a loud sound, every time your stomach drops before you consciously register why, every time you feel your shoulders tense at a shape in your peripheral vision, you are not malfunctioning. You're running software that was field tested for hundreds of thousands of years in an environment radically different from the one you actually live in now. Your ancestors needed the system for leopards in tall grass. You're using the same system for a car backfiring on a quiet street, for a coworker suddenly appearing behind your desk, for a horror movie jump scare that you logically knew was coming. The hardware hasn't been updated, only the inputs have changed. This is also why fear can feel so disconnected from logic. You can know with total certainty that the noise was just the pipes settling. You can know that the dark hallway in your own home holds nothing, and your heart will still race anyway. That gap between what you know and what your body does is the gap between your high road and your low road, and it's not a flaw in your reasoning. Your reasoning was never in charge of the first half second to begin with. Researcher Robert Sapolsky, who spent years studying stress physiology, points out that this rapid threat response doesn't just affect your mind. It hijacks your entire body. Your pupils dilate. Blood gets redirected away from digestion and toward your muscles. Your hearing sharpens for certain frequencies associated with distress calls. All of this happens automatically, instantly, without your permission, because for almost all of human history, the few seconds it would have taken to consciously decide whether to run were seconds you usually didn't have. So the next time you flinch before you understand why, consider what's actually happening. You are not being irrational. You are running a survival algorithm so old that it predates spoken language, an algorithm refined across an unimaginable number of encounters between fragile bodies and real predators. An algorithm that doesn't care about your dignity in a parking lot or your composure during a movie. It only cares about one thing: getting you to the next moment alive. Modern life rarely tests this system the way it was designed for. Few of us will ever face an actual predator in tall grass. But the wiring doesn't know that. It still treats a sudden notification buzz, an unexpected tap on the shoulder, a stranger walking too close behind you at night, with the same urgency it once reserved for genuine life or death encounters. You are carrying a Paleolithic alarm system through a world that mostly consists of plastic bags in the wind. And maybe that's worth sitting with for a moment. The flinch you felt earlier today, the one that embarrassed you slightly, the one your conscious mind quickly dismissed as nothing, wasn't nothing at all. It was a message from every ancestor who ever lived long enough to pass that reflex on to you. A message that arrived microseconds before you even knew there was anything to be afraid of. You're walking down a quiet street again. A shadow shifts. And before you even know what you're looking at, some ancient, patient part of you has already decided to protect you.